Big day. Big day for the Prime Minister, big day for Northern Ireland, and a big day, in fact, for the whole UK. Rishi Sunak has rolled the dice, he's dealt the cards, and his premiership will never be the same again. By taking on right-wingers and unionists who think that any deal with the European Union, almost by definition, must be a sellout, he is risking everything. If this works, he will have defined himself as the deal maker, and he'll be able to lead the country and the party in a different way from now on. If it doesn't work, by which I mean we see violence in Northern Ireland, no return of the Assembly, or defeat in Parliament by Tory rebels, then this might be close to the end of his premiership. I don't think that's going to happen, but he is halfway through what is becoming a genuine political thriller. Sunak understands what a big moment this is, which is why he has roped in the king, toting a cup of tea, to welcome Ursula von der Leyen, the EU president. Big stage, big national symbols. Some people think that using the monarchy in this way is unconstitutional hoopla. Maybe you do. I don't, although I was amused by how often and with what relish von der Leyen said the words Windsor Framework. Also, did you think by any chance that the two leaders might have choreographed what they were telling us?
The United Kingdom and European Union may have had our differences in the past, but we are allies, trading partners and friends, something that we've seen clearly in the past year as we joined with others to support Ukraine. This is the beginning of a new chapter in our relationship.
I believe we can now open a new chapter in our partnership. A stronger EU-UK relationship, standing as close partners, shoulder to shoulder, now and in the future.
All very interesting, and at any rate, Sunak's shown he can get a deal with the EU that his predecessors, such as Boris Johnson, could not. Because, make no mistake, being able to get rid of the vast majority of checks between Northern Ireland and Great Britain, with no new border on the island of Ireland, and reducing radically the role of the European Court in the future through the so-called Stormont break, giving politicians their say, is a great success for British negotiation. I was speaking to one prominent Brexiteer who used to sit in the cabinet, and he said to me, frankly, Andrew, if we'd been offered this 3 years ago, we would have given our right arms for it. Going forward, if it goes ahead, it ought to make it easier for us to do a deal with the French over the small boats migration in the Channel and to smooth trade more generally. If it goes ahead, of course, we don't know really what the Democratic Unionist Party, the DUP, will finally say. Perfectly reasonably, they are waiting to pore over the fine details. But note this, Northern Ireland's defence against new EU rules is the Stormont break, which requires 30 members of the Assembly or more to vote. And that, of course, can't happen unless the thing is sitting in the first place. Could there be a stronger incentive to push the DUP back into a power-sharing administration? Very clever, you have to say. You have speed read your way through this deal. What do you think of it?
I think it's a very good deal indeed. I think that both Rishi Sunak and the EU team, Ursula von der Leyen and Maros Šefčovič, deserve huge credit. What we've got is, some compromises from the UK side, accepting that, the protocol that Boris Johnson negotiated remains the legal framework for the future. But the EU has agreed to accept far more potential risk in terms of access to the single market. I think because they've looked at the last couple of years and they've concluded actually the level of risk from cross-border trade in Ireland isn't serious. And so the red-green channels work for them, and they've conceded far more than I would have expected them to do as regards the Stormont break and the power of Stormont through the UK government ultimately to veto the imposition of new regulations.
So you'd agree a successful negotiation from the British perspective, but it does of course leave the EU law that does still apply in Northern Ireland in some areas in ways that it doesn't apply anywhere else in the UK.
Well, it applies not to, as I understand it, to goods that are sold only in Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK and don't go beyond that. Of course, we already have provision in UK law for there to be differences in regulatory standards within the different nations of the UK. But what it does provide for is a framework of checks and inspections, lighter touch than previously, to ensure that stuff that is going to go on to the single market going south into the Republic of Ireland is subjected to checks to make sure that they comply with the European rules. And that seems to be a sensible way through on this one.